Another 0-2. Curveball on the outside edge, strike three. For the 1,000th time, wrap this one up in green and white.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of RailCats Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savetic, and we have a couple things we gotta go over today, as we've missed quite a bit. As the last podcast I've done was just like a interview with Matt Brunson. If you haven't gone and watched that, be sure to go back. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think you learned a little bit here and there with that one. But getting into things we're gonna talk about, we got the All-Star Game, the selections, the 1,000th game the RailCats won, a hot team right now, a 4-game winning streak, highest of the season. Finally swept the team, first time that's happened all year. We got the World Baseball, or the baseball Baseball Champions League Invitational that the American Association is now a part of. Futures Camp, we can kind of go over a little bit of that. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. 1,000th game was against the Lincoln Salt Dogs, a 7-2 win. I was at work when that game was kind of going on, so I didn't have the opportunity to go and really watch it, but I did listen to it because it was like 8 to 4 that I was working, so I wasn't really there, but I was able to listen to the end of it. One of the better games. Harrison Francis, he went 6 innings, only gave up 2 runs, 2 runs, 1 earned. Jared Price, Phillips, Nunez, Leon, they all came in and they shut the door. Offense was really good. Woodworth had 3 RBIs. Diaz had an RBI. Valera had an RBI. Contreras and Lingua all had RBIs. So it was just one of those good overall 1,000th win going on. And really, to think about it, that's impressive for a ball club to get that far. We obviously hit the 2,000 mark in the franchise games, and then later on we hit the 1,000 mark of wins. Is the franchise under 500? Yes, but to be able to compete, be able to be in a league, or be able to run a team for over 20 years and not really have not always the greatest success necessarily in being in the area that's in, but what I'm getting at, it does draw a lot of fans, and it still brings a lot of people to the ball game, ballpark, all that good stuff. But it's just still impressive, to be able to bring that in and get to 2,000 game, to get to 1,000 games and winning. Hopefully by the time that 4,000 rolls around, that we would hit the 2,000 win mark before that happens, or whatever the case may be, however you want to roll that one around. But for the fans that have been supporting the RailCats since basically day one, that's a huge achievement for the ball team. For those fans as well, to be sticking around that long and supporting the team is always the big benefit of when you look at the independent portion of it. They don't get the TV deals, they don't get the sponsorship deals, and that kind of stuff that these bigger teams do. Even when you fall into affiliate ball, a lot of the major league teams take care of those teams, so they're not really concerned. They're more concerned about just trying to get people to the ballpark, that kind of stuff, making sure the stadium looks nice, and that they don't have to really, they deal a little bit more with the business side, not so much the player side, but they're still backed by the bigger club. Not saying that the American Association is partnered with the MLB, so there may be a little bit stipend that kind of goes that way, but the point is, being an independent team, to being able to win the 1,000th game is impressive over that span. So applaud everyone that does go to the games and keeps that going. That's a big accomplishment there. Looking at the All-Stars, Jesus Mariaga and DJ Wilkinson were for sure lock, and then LG Castillo was the last man in All-Star vote, which we really gotta applaud the fans on this one. I really hope. I really wish we could see the numbers, what the numbers of the votes were, and I really hope that it was an actual vote. You know what I'm saying? Because I was listening to Indie Ball Report, and they said something like, "Well, they hope it's the same thing too," where it's just not like this guy really should have got in, but we're gonna make it interesting when have the fans vote, and this guy's gonna get in anyways. But I don't necessarily think that's the case on that portion of it. I mean, it's been 2 years in a row. You had Danielle Engwall last year, and now you got LG Castillo this year. The RailCats fans, when they come together, they really come together. I know Paulie was out there with the sign saying "Vote for LG Castillo." You went to the ballpark, and they had the signs up "Vote for LG," and they had little the little pins. And I went to go grab a beer, and the lady's like, "Did you vote for LG today?" And I was like, "I already did." Like, don't worry, I already did. But it was just one of those like, um, the team, I think, did a very good job of trying to get people to the vote. You go into the ballpark, they had the posters up, they were trying to get people to vote, they had the QR codes up, and it was one of those that they told people, hey, you gotta try and do this, we want you to do this, and blah blah blah, this and that. So I applaud the fans, the ball club, and the players for coming together and voting the second year in a row, last man in. So maybe we just keep it rolling every year, that kind of stuff. I think the biggest snub out of all of them, I think, I would say Gio Diaz was probably the biggest one, just because he's able to play all over the field. You put him in anywhere, he's going to get on base. Right now he's at 30 steals. And I know when you look at it from Milwaukee standpoint, he hasn't really played second and all that other stuff. Like, he's been kind of bounced around. Like, I think in a way that kind of hinders him to a certain extent. But you got like Brian Torres, who's there at short, and right now he's lighting it up again. At the time of the voting was going on, or the time that the All-Star ballots or the All-Star people were being announced, Brian Torres really wasn't doing that well. Now he's kind of turned things around. So in the long scheme of things, it probably looks like, yeah, that was a better fit. But I'm pretty sure you could put Gio anywhere. Even a reserve player. He didn't have to be necessarily a starter, but a reserve player. But his numbers that he's been able to pull, what he's been able to do, stealing bases, playing all over the field. He's got one home run. The power numbers aren't necessarily there, but this team really isn't full of power. I mean, it's full of power, but the numbers really haven't been there for that portion of it. Hopefully that's going to change here shortly. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But a little side note, maybe this is going to be more of like an off-season kind of talk, but I think that they need to slightly change a little bit with the All-Star voting, or how they set the All-Stars, because it just seems like, when we look here, and Anthony Barone is the Milwaukee Milkmen's manager, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 players on the team. Obviously, I would say his was more statistically driven, outside the other side on the Kansas City side that was more like personal driven, that kind of deal. I think that maybe how it sets the All-Stars isn't necessarily set via the coaches, but maybe more of like maybe media sort of members, their kind of votes, front offices kind of votes, that kind of stuff. Like, I think just saying that here the manager gets to choose, I think the manager should be able to choose the starting lineup and who, those kind of stuff. But I don't think necessarily that they should be the ones choosing to who they want to be. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. I get it to a certain extent, but I think it open it up to more of a non-bias atmosphere. You having a bunch of people kind of dictate their votes and stuff like that, throughout the year of, or maybe you just open up to strictly fan voting. I know that's probably a lot, but you could just strictly open to fan voting, and you have all the players, and then, like, halfway to the All-Star game, kind of start dwindling those numbers down and taking, if they don't reach this threshold, take that portion out. I think that would be more fun. I think to open that aspect of it up. Now, necessarily, would you get the best players? Probably not, because you're leaving it just to fans. I mean, there's a lot that you can kind of go with it, but I just think just saying the manager is the one that gets to pick it. I get it. It probably alleviates some of the stress and stuff you deal with, but that's just one of those I feel like maybe they should open it up to more of an actual non-bias, because I think there's still quite a bit that people got snubbed that necessarily shouldn't have, just based on their numbers and stuff like that. But like I said, that's kind of a conversation for a different day. What I missed as far as signings, Jose Bentis and Seth Cadell. I know Seth Cadell came before Jose Bentis did. Looking at Seth Cadell on this portion of it, he was basically a free agent signing out of East Carolina to the Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, that kind of stuff. He did reach AAA last year. It looks like he only played in 2 games, all an average of what he has going on right now. He's batting at 235-ish. The numbers are kind of because he got the hit and the home run last night. That is just one of those that's kind of hard to. I think he was before that was like 234, 230, 232. I think it was the couple days when I was looking at his stats here. Obviously, we have seen his defensive abilities, his ability to call games. Maybe not so much the offensive production, except last night. He was really good last night. He got his first hit with the RailCats, and then he hit an absolute missile to left field. I still think that ball is going. I don't know if it's landed yet. That ball was crushed. So I could see a heavy rotation with him and Thomas Greeley, just kind of based on maybe momentum. Who did productive the day before, or maybe it's a 3-4. Maybe the matchup's a little bit different. How they're gonna. I know with Thomas Greeley's a switch hitter, so maybe it's easier to put him in the lineup. But then with Seth, who knows how that's gonna play out? I mean, really, Seth is only 24 years old, so there's still a lot of upside to that portion of it, and being able to hit AAA. Maybe it's just one of those things that just didn't necessarily work out for him in that aspect of it. So we can kind of see on that one. Jose Bentis, I'm up in the air with him of how I feel. He did reach AA. Looking at all of his numbers right now, his ERA of all average is a 7.20. He has a whip of 2.042. His walks per 9 is 7.7. Strikeouts per 9 is 10.9. Walks per 9 is 10.6. More of a relief-ish role. I would kind of say he's played in 107 games, and he hasn't started any of them. He's finished 45 of them. He has 12 saves. He's pitched 133 innings, has given up 9 home runs. He's walked 158 people, struck out 162. He's also one of those young players. He's only 24. He was a free agent signing out of the Dominican Republic to the Houston Astros, played in the Houston Astros organization. So maybe a little bit of that knowledge is from back in the day when Lamar Rogers was in that system as well. That kind of stuff. So I'm just curious to see how he's going to play out. He basically booted out Jesus Rosario, who just it wasn't clicking with him. Something just wasn't clicking with his ability. He threw fast, but just not the accuracy wasn't quite there. So I think it's just one of those things that just didn't work out. And I'm surprised it just took that long to get rid of him. But that's for another day, another dollar, or whatever the case may be. So I would say, at least with Seth being picked up, and that also they got rid of Paul Mondesi. I didn't really see him working. I don't think he worked out the way that the RailCats were hoping. His offense production numbers weren't really there. The power numbers weren't really there, and defensively he really wasn't that good. So I think it was just better to go with this kind of setup that we're getting now with the Thomas Greeley and Seth Cadell. I think that it is a better behind the plate aspect. If I think every time that Seth's thrown down so far, he's thrown everyone out. He has a laser missile arm. I mean, so does Thomas Greeley. Yeah, we've seen it too. But I think Seth may be a little bit more accurate on that portion of seeing it. And if we're going to see those productive power numbers from Seth, I would obviously see him in the lineup a lot more on that portion of it. Getting into the last 4 games, the last, beating Lincoln, sweeping Kane County, and then sweeping the doubleheader that happened yesterday. And, okay, maybe outside of the first doubleheader, the 6-4, where it just where it was dominant throughout, and then that 6th inning hit, and I believe it was Eisenbarger came in, and it they kind of caught a little hot streak going against him. You had Brusa coming up, Kerrigan came up, Wassinger, Harris, and Smith. So all they kind of collected together and rattled Eisenbarger. He was able to collect himself, and DJ Wilkinson came in and he just closed the door. I would have really liked to see Vivas go the full 6, but he didn't. We had the outstanding game 1 with John Sheik's absolute madman. He went 7 2/3, the longest the RailCat has gone this year. He only gave up 6 hits, 1 run, which was on the home run, I believe, to former RailCat Davian Williams. Or was that was that he wasn't in the lineup for that one. It was I think Vivas gave up that one, so my bad on that portion of it. But I do remember, I believe that 1 run came in the 8th inning, and it was a single of Bassby hit in Cribs. So that one was credited towards Wilkinson on that one, or no. No, it was John Sheeks. He's the one that gave up that one, and then he got taken out for Jack Eisenbarger, and he came in, and Jack Eisenbarger did he recovered from I'm getting my days mixed up. That was yesterday. Okay. Anyways, what I'm getting at was John Sheeks had a heck of a game. I really wish they would have maybe tried to push him and to finish out the full 8 and get 8 innings, but I think his pitch count was pretty high up there. He only ended up with 96 pitches, so I mean, I guess it really wasn't that bad. He was just lights out. I mean, I'm surprised he could have maybe completed the game. I just think it was one of those that he didn't want to necessarily burn him, but who knows on that portion of it. The 6-4 talked about. Even at that, I mean, Vivas had a very good game as well. He went 5 1/3 inning, gave up 2 runs, walked 2, struck out 3. Eisenbarger came in, they gave up a little bit, and then DJ Wilkinson came down, he shut the door on that portion of productive numbers from really everyone. Diaz had 1 RBI, Valera had an RBI, Davai had an RBI, Lingua had an RBI. Like, they all just were productive at bats. Woodward scored 2 runs. He had 2 hits. Diaz 2 hits. Valera had 2 hits. Mariaga had a hit. Davai had a hit. Greeley had a hit. But I really think that the last game kind of solidified the hotness of I think, talking about at the beginning of the year, the expectations were a great starting bullpen, or a great starting rotation. We were interested to see about the bullpen, and if we could find a closing role out of that. And I think that was supposed to go more towards Matt Leon, and DJ Wilkinson came in, and he's like, yeah, I'll take that one on that portion of it. But then the offense was going to be. I don't think we had an issue with the offense. Maybe the defense was going to be a little shaky. But really what we got was an inconsistency, especially with Harrison Francis. When he got hurt, that kind of shook up the rotation a little bit. The bullpen took a minute to kind of collect itself. the middle portion of the bullpen, not so much the back half of the portion. It just seemed like a lot of times, especially with Edward Cuello, when he pitched, when you look at his record uh, going into the game, he was 1-5, but a lot of those were like no decisions, and his ERA is at 380, 378 right now. I mean, it kind of, I think before that it was a 4.06, so it really wasn't that, it's not that terrible. Like, just looking at the past couple starts, he gave up 3-4. The last time he gave up more than 4 runs was against Fargo, which was June 21st. So I mean, he's right around that average, but most of the times I'm seeing a lot of like 1s and 4s as kind of like seeming what it's going to kind of roll itself out to a certain extent. But a lot of times it was like a no decision. Like against Lincoln, he went 7 innings, no decision. Milwaukee, 7 innings, no decisions. Cleveland went 6 innings, no decisions. Like there's a lot of the times where it seemed like he went decently far, and he just wouldn't get the decision on that aspect of it. So it's good to see him get a win. He's the first RailCat, quote unquote, to complete a full game. Yes, it's only 7 innings, but that's beside the point. We're not taking away his ability, what he was able to do. He only gave up 5 hits and 1 run, walked 2 people and struck out 4. So the starting pitching in the 4 games, starting pitching has been lights out. A couple people here and there in the bullpen that, I mean, really the one game. Really the one game you gave up more than 2 runs. I mean, you beat Lincoln 7-2, Kane County the first game 5-1, second game you won 6-2, and then it was 7-1. So like the starting pitching and the pitching in general has been very hot and dominant. Now it's going to depend because you play Kansas City in the next 3 games here, and I know they've kind of slept a little bit, being number 1 in the American Association in indie ball reports rankings. They were number 1, and they were getting blown out by Sioux Falls, and I think they won last night. So it's just one of those, like, we can navigate that, and if we are able to keep the streak going a little bit, if we're really to take 2 out of 3 against Kansas City, that's huge going into the All-Star. I mean, Kane County slid really far. When we look here at the standings, the RailCats are are a half game back from Kane County. So it's just a matter of that they just got to keep winning. They got to keep things going and jump on opponents when they can. They jumped on Kane County when they had the opportunity to. The next one you're still looking to jump Kane County, but the next one is Lake Country, and you're only 3 games back from Lake Country. You're going to come into, you're going to face Kansas City, you're going to face Chicago, then you're going to go play Cleburne again, and you're going to fall, it's going to be very difficult. And then you have a 3 game against Lake Country, at Lake Country towards the end of the year. It's not going to be very easy. I'm not saying this is going to be very easy, but if this team is able to play like they did these last 4 games, the playoffs will be right there. We will be in the playoff race. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We just got to keep playing consistent. And maybe this is the little spark that kind of ignites this flame, and this team is able to play the way that we all thought they were going to play. And it's just not my thought. It's just not the fans' thought. It's everyone thought that this team was going to be different than the years past. This team was going to sit easily in a playoff spot and easily, maybe easily take a playoff spot and not necessarily have to worry about falling out of the playoffs. And really good start, rocky portion, and it's seeming like we're starting to kind of fill that back out. So hopefully we can figure something out, and the RailCats can get back into that winning way and keep the hot streak going. So yeah, I think I'm caught up on most everything and kind of kept it under 30 minutes. So that's always a positive. Next 3 games against Kansas City, then we get the All-Star break, and then it's the Dogs. We're going to play the Dogs, and it's going to be a good one. I think so. Yeah. It's going to do it for me. I'm your host, Kyle Svedich. This is the podcast, that good stuff. Be sure to, if you like the podcast episode, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And so, as far as podcast platforms, everything is going to go out to every podcast platform except, I believe, Podbean and Apple. I've been having issues with Apple trying to get that to upload. It's just really ticked me off. So if you get your podcast from anywhere else, you're probably going to get it. It's available. So there won't be a Spotify link anymore. It'll just be, whatever podcast platform that you use. Go ahead, and if there is a podcast platform that you do use and it's not on there, just let me know and I'll put it on there. If you rather listen to it than watch it, then there you go. That's how we'll figure it all out. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, and as always, go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike three. Wrap this one up in green and